Hi, everybody. This is Amelia. I wanted to let you know that I'm going to be trying something new. On Fridays at 4, I'm going to be going live on our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/@feministsurvivalproject. I'll be going live Fridays at 4 Eastern Time. And from February 21st through the end of March, we'll be answering questions, singing songs, and generally just having a nice time. I hope you'll join me.
Okay. Hope. Let's let the people know that you have COVID.
I got the COVID 5th time.
5th time. Still. Contracted from a loved one who got it at a medical appointment.
Yeah.
So that's how infectious diseases work. Mask indoors, my friends. But hope. We have talked about how we want to get more concrete and specific about this whole stronger than the fire situation. The building is burning, and the function that we have is to help people get out and to help as many people survive as possible.
You're convinced that hope is one of those tools, and I kind of feel like hope is a reason that people feel like it's okay just to stay in the fire. It'll be fine. That's what hope feels like to me.
Right. So that's why we need to talk about the title of this episode, The Problem with Hope.
Mm-hmm.
If hope is your reason to do nothing, that's delusion. I'm not gonna mince words about this. We're now the bad guys. We are on the side of Russia and China, and the bad guys. We're the bad guys now, and it is as a nation,
You mean
America,
we, the U.S.? Yeah.
we as a nation are on the axis now.
Yeah.
We have abandoned the allies, and we're the bad guys nationally. And if you perceive us as being in any other situation, go to isthisaccoup.com.
Yeah.
And you'll see that this is a coup.
Yeah.
Bad, it's bad. I had pessimistic ideas about how it would go, and it's going worse than I thought it would.
Yeah.
So, bad. And yet, hope is a sustaining energy. The function of hope is to give you energy to keep going in the fight against the fire. What makes us stronger than the fire, part of what makes us stronger, is hope. But I made a video that I put on YouTube about how I don't have a hope. My hope is broken. I have a hope. My hope is broken. Because if I say I don't have any hope, that makes people think that I feel hopeless, or that I've given up,
Right.
or that I'm not going to try anymore.
Right.
Because this is the question. Does hope mean you're not going to try because you're I have hope that things are going to be okay? Or is being hopeless bad because it means you're not going to try anymore? And here's what I want to do. I want to disaggregate. I want to separate the ideas of trying and experiencing hope. And the way I'm going to do that is by talking about how wrong the primary academic way of addressing hope is. Are you ready?
I really want that because I need those words defined for me because I still have a rough time understanding them.
So the problem with how we think about hope is in the dominant academic way that we think about hope. So hope is measured in terms of two variables: pathways and agency. Pathways and agency. So in the little survey instrument that gets you, the questionnaire that's used to assess people's hope, there are the pathway items, and those pathway items are things like, I can think of many ways to get the things in life that are important to me. Pathways. Can I see a way forward? Pathways, right? And agency is, I meet the goals I set for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing. I'm good for both of those things for a lot of situations. You and I have both been fundamentally successful in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
We have made good things happen in our lives.
Yeah, our needs are
How
met.
much of that was us and how much of that was,
Privilege.
yeah,
Yeah.
opportunity and like being white and being like, all the things. Anyway, so the survey instrument that assesses pathways is, in particular, the pathways part is flawed. So let's look at a different one of the items from the pathways.
Okay.
The first one was, I can think of many ways to get the things that are important to me, right? To get the things that I can move toward a goal. Another one is, I can think of many ways to get out of a jam. I can move away from a bad situation. And
Okay.
like, sure, I can think of many ways. Will any of them work? Uh, so, but what's a jam though? Is it the ability to get out of jams
Yeah.
that
A
makes us?
jam does not feel like what we're in now.
Does jam describe climate change
Yeah, no.
or rising autocracy? Like, is that? Can I
No.
think of ways to get out of this jam of?
Constitutional crisis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the problems that we are faced with when we watch the news are too big for any individual to think their way out of.
Right.
It's going to take collaboration
Right.
at a massive scale.
There's no individual who has the agency to change what's happening now
Yeah,
except for maybe 4 people in the world.
right. And those 4 people are the actual problem.
They are the actual problem right now, yeah.
So, to save our species from the damage we're inflicting on our one and only home, each individual one of us doing our best to get out of this jam, like us and our wish cycling, us and our, like, reducing the temperature in our homes when it's cold outside, us increasing the temperature in our homes when it's hot outside, like that's not irrelevant. And it's not the solution, right?
Urgh.
So, one of the problems with the academic way that hope is measured is that it doesn't take into account scale.
Yeah.
So, on the one hand, there's like, can you, in your individual day to day life, think of a way to scrape together enough money to buy groceries for your family today?
Right.
Right. And then there's climate change and the constitutional crisis.
Right. Is there any research that parses out these differences?
No, because this is the dominant way that
Yeah.
that researchers talk about hope, and they are not questioning it, because
Yeah.
this measure is effectively correlated with like mental health.
Yeah, I know.
Because the people who take the survey are not sitting there asking themselves, because according to this measure, I'm doing fine, like with
Yeah,
my
right.
hope, because like, yeah, I can think my way out of a jam, and yeah, I
A
have.
jam? Sure.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So this is the reason why there's this like misunderstanding of what hope is.
Ah.
It's because having hope, what is it that you have hope in? Is it yourself? Is it your community? Is it humanity? Ah!
That's the thing I think sort of casually people colloquially feel the difference between faith and hope is that hope is just a general sense of positivity and possibility for a positive outcome, and faith is more of a hope in something, this belief that there is a thing. I feel like faith is more specific.
Yeah, people for sure think that hope is something very general. So where this started is that in 2024, YA author and tuberculosis hater John Green took a break from YouTube because of depression. And he said in the video, saying he was taking a break because of depression, he said a thing he says a lot, which is a quote from an Emily Dickinson poem, which is that hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all, which is this very general sense that, like, yeah, there's a thing perched in your soul that sings the tune and there's no words to the tune, but it gives you a feel. You have a feel, you have a little bird perched in your soul singing a tune without the words. And people are like, yeah, hope. And so many people are like, yes, I needed this. I needed to be reminded of this. Thank you so much because I'm so struggling. And for someone like me, and also apparently for someone like you, like I remember a time that I had a thing with feathers perched in my soul singing a song.
I don't.
And
I
you
never have.
never did.
I never have. I have always hated Emily Dickinson. There's
Me
nothing about her
too.
poetry that appeals to me.
It has
And
never
now I
been for
wonder if
me.
she's just too neurotypical to be
I mean,
relatable.
as a person who struggled with mental health, she had the opportunity to have a different view of the world, but that is not what happened. So if you have a thing with feathers, and if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, I have that feeling, I have a thing that perches in my soul and sings a little tune, and I have a sense of hope, and it sure
Great.
is hard to hear that sometimes in the midst of all the noise about the bad things that are happening. And I want you to know, if you're a person who can hear, do that. Do that. It is good for you. It is correlated with all sorts of positive health outcomes, physical health, mental health, social health. Having a thing with feathers perched in your soul, singing the tune without the words, is so good for you if you have one. If you have one, keep it. And this is an episode to come back to if you ever feel like that goes away, or like you can't hear it anymore, or like your hope breaks. Like my bird perched in my soul is an ex-parrot. It is.
It's pining for the fjords.
Yes. It's singing the choir invisible.
Yeah.
It's the parrot sketch. And so if you are a person who's like, I'm really struggling to hear the little bird, maybe the bird's not there. And maybe the reason for that is because a sustaining energy, which is what hope is. Hope is a sustaining energy. That's what hope is for, is to keep you motivated to keep going when things are not going well, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I don't
Which
know.
I think is why you and I so much value criterion velocity and the discrepancy reducing increasing feedback loop, which is the technical name that makes everyone fall asleep, which is why we call it the little monitor.
Right, yeah.
Which is like the thing in your brain that has this, like, knows what a goal is, and it has a sense, it's keeping track of how much progress you're making toward the goal and how much effort you're making toward the goal. So it's keeping this ratio of effort to progress.
Yeah.
And it has a really strong opinion about what that ratio is supposed to be.
Right.
So hope becomes difficult when it feels like you are putting in a whole lot of effort and making not enough progress for how much effort you're putting in.
And when there's a problem where no amount of effort will make any progress, such as constitutional crisis.
Right. Wish cycling.
Yeah.
It's not going to...
It's
how do you...
hopelessness.
How do you keep the sustaining energy, the motivation to keep on trying when literally nothing you do is going to make any sort of measurable difference?
In terms of polyvagal, I just want to say, like, sustaining energy is never a thing I've had. I'm made of shutdown. I am made of no. I'm made of
You're made of no.
Parasympathetic. What's the polyvagal term?
Dorsal.
I'm made of dorsal. Like, the first thing that happened when I existed as an individual entity in the world was I stopped breathing.
Yeah.
Right? I came
Birth
out.
trauma.
Birth trauma, did not breathe. Like, my body shut down, was its very first response to the world, and not
to life was nope.
And not much has changed. Like, my body shuts down.
My name is no. My number is no.
No.
You need to let it go.
Yeah, like, so polyvagally speaking, sustaining energy is ventral, right? It's connectedness and playfulness and positivity and and
Ease, joy.
yeah, and sustaining. Even fight is sustaining at some level.
Fight is a sustaining energy, yes.
And that's just not my default state. And that might be why I have just so little experience with hope.
Yeah, because you struggle with neurophysiological access to the experience of hope in your brain. Yeah.
Right. Which is not to say that I don't fight for things or believe in things or strive for things. I just don't do it out of a sense of what did you say hope is?
A sustaining energy. Well, when you fight for things, that is a sustaining energy of rage. That's anger.
Yes.
Fight is anger.
Yeah, I also have desires, things I want. So I work for them because I want them.
Yeah. And because you have so little access to ventral stimulation, that means that you mostly work for the things that you want from a place of sympathetic activation.
Yeah.
It is the case with people whose home away from home, whose default state is dorsal. Like you
Yeah.
have to go up the chain. You have to go from dorsal
Yeah.
through sympathetic, which is fight or flight,
Yeah.
to get to ventral, right? My
Right.
home
Yeah.
away home from home is sympathetic. So my default state is fight or flight.
Yeah.
So I'm very activated. And my mask is a blend. We talk about voices being chest voice, head voiced, and blend.
Yeah. Sure.
My mask is, which we're gonna talk about autism related masking in more detail later, but my mask is a blend of ventral and sympathetic. It is playful, it's intense, but it's appealing because it's fun.
Yeah.
Your mask, it has like a little bit of ventral blended into it, but like you have so little access to it that your mask is more straight sympathetic.
Yeah. Oh, you're true. Yeah.
Yeah, which is why part of your mask is more than mine is about being in control and being a leader.
Oh. Yeah. And it always has been.
And it always has been.
It's not conducting training. I've always been more of a control freak than you.
Not that I have not been a control freak.
Right. Yeah.
Like the number of stories going through my mind right now of the times when I like made a fool of myself because I felt like I needed to be in control of something.
Yeah.
And that was sympathetic activation. That was fight or flight.
Yeah.
When you feel like you need to be in control. And like being in control is actually related to hope because that agency piece of it, right? So there's pathways, feeling like you see a way forward, and then there's agency. I feel like I can meet my own needs. And these other motherfuckers are in my way, and if those other motherfuckers would just quit it, then like I'd be able to do this. And so I need to be in control of things so that I can get my way. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Sustaining energy, feeling like you need to be in control is a sympathetic fight or flight way of experiencing what some people might call hope. Like if I'm not in control, this is a hopeless situation. I need to be in control so that this situation isn't hopeless because I see the way forward and y'all just need to let me be in charge.
Yeah.
One of the things that happened with COVID, I hope this feels like a funny story for people to look back on, 2020, when every Silicon Valley social media successful person decided they were smart, therefore they understood how to end a pandemic. And so they were all like pitching their ideas and they were all saying, here's how it needs to be done. And like none of them are experts in global health or public health or infectious disease or epidemiology. None of them have specialized training in what it actually takes to know how to do this. And we just watched all these smart people believe that they knew what to do, feel totally sure that if only they could be in control, they could do it. Elon Musk was like key among these idiots, these assholes who were like, I mean, like, this is not a complicated problem. And it, like, truly, it's not a complicated problem, but it is an extraordinarily difficult thing to do. Ending diseases is difficult. My PhD is in how ending diseases is difficult.
Yeah.
And I, with that specialized knowledge, was like, fuck, shit, I don't know how to do this. I hope there's somebody who knows how to do this.
Because Dunning-Kruger is a thing.
Yeah, because I had enough knowledge to know that I didn't know how to do this.
Yeah.
And they didn't have enough knowledge, but did have enough, like, success
Right.
in other domains to feel like they knew how to do it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dunning-Kruger, for those who don't know, hopefully people know by now, but it's,
Everybody knows. I think people know.
you don't know anything about something, and so you're like, I have no idea. And you learn a little bit, and you're like, I am now a master of this. And then you continue learning, and you're like, oh, shit, there's a whole lot I don't know. So that the more you learn, like, you become genuinely competent at something and will never again return to a state of feeling like you're sure you know how to do something.
Yeah, a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. Officially documented.
Yes, formally proven.
Yeah.
So hope is in that way delusion. Like I said, like, it's delusional. We are the bad guys, globally speaking, as a nation. Now we have joined the axis of evil. That's what George fucking W. Bush called it. We're on their side now as a nation. And Marco Rubio's soul is already in hell and he knows it, which is slightly gratifying to see. Okay, so I want to talk about people. So this in particular, I hope that this next part I talk about is going to be helpful for people who are comparatively young. We are approaching 48. We were full adults in 2000 and 2004 during the George W. Bush years. I, as a sex educator, had obvious reasons in 2004 for really wanting George W. Bush out of office, and John Kerry was the alternative. And so I invested hard in supporting John Kerry. In the spring of that year, I went and got trained in how elections work. That's where I learned time is the most important variable because it is the one and only thing you can never get more of. And then in the week leading up to the election in November of 2004, I volunteered in the, at that time, crucial swing state of Ohio. Oh, how things have changed, right? So I sat in a room with other people with computers managing spreadsheets of volunteers and doors that got knocked on. And we all know how that election turned out. But I had hope. I had agency. I believed that if I put my nose to the grindstone, I could make good things happen. I was told that if all of us just do everything we can, then, like, we're going to get this done. I could think of my way out of a jam because I went and got trained in how to make it happen. And then I went and did the things I was told would make it happen. And on election day, I had voted absentee because I was out of state for election day. But man, that night I drove home from Ohio back to Indiana, where I was a grad student, listening to the returns. And it was like, anybody who is there, like, you know that the returns early on, we were all like, looking good. And I went to bed. And when I woke up in the morning, George W. Bush had been reelected. So I drove to my best friend's house and I walked in. He was already, like, sitting on the couch watching TV. And I was just like, is it true? And he went, yeah. And I ugly cried, the, like, fluids dripping out of every orifice, out of, like, tears and snot and drool dripping out of my, just, like, couldn't breathe, like somebody had, like, socked me in the diaphragm, and, like, I was a wind, like, I could like that kind of, like, hard, like, desperate, despairing sobbing. And why was I crying that hard? Because that was the day my little bird died.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because I had agency and I had pathways, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the day I learned that that is not how change happens at a large scale. individuals doing their best. That's not actually the thing. I mean, it is the thing,
It's the only thing.
and it's also not the thing.
It's not enough. Yep.
Yep. And so, it was at the time, as they always are, the most important election of my lifetime. I knew for sure that lots of people were going to die who didn't have to, very much like this election. And so, yeah,
Little bird broke.
little bird broke. And so
I never had a little bird because I was born without agency or a pathway.
if you are a person who is reacting to this second, the Trump regime, as we might as well call it, the Musk regime, if you are reacting to it like, what the fuck, everything is broken, how can I ever hope again? What I would like to say to you is, welcome. It's been over 20 years. I was real depressed for a big chunk of time. And I gradually picked myself up and put the pieces back together differently so that I could continue to do the thing that I do. So here are some things that I did. One of the most important was that I figured out my something larger. This is the thing we talk about in Burnout is chapter 3. Like, that's how important. So chapter 2 is a little monitor of like, I'm putting all this effort. So this is my little monitor. I'm putting in all this effort, and it leads up to election day when we find out whether or not we actually did the thing. And it turned out we didn't do the thing, and my little monitor pushed me off a cliff into a pit of despair, and I hit the ground badly and broke most of my bones and bruised many of my internal organs, and it takes time to heal from that. And that's like, okay, if you are currently splattered on the ground and your bones are broken and your internal organs are bruised, healing takes time. Emotional healing takes time just as much as physical healing. What promotes physical healing, of course, is an environment of holding, a cast, being still, stillness, and time and rest, right? So if now is the time for you emotionally to create an environment of holding, stillness, rest, and time, that is correct. That is what is absolutely necessary if you're like broken in pieces.
Even if right now it feels like it's so urgent that you be doing things.
The thing is, you literally can't. You literally can't. If you try to get up, if many of your bones are broken and many of your internal organs are bruised, if you're like, I need to get up and keep going, what will happen?
You're gonna fall apart.
Yeah, you're gonna actually kill yourself. Like, you're gonna actually like make your body worse.
Yeah.
And I want people to know that that's literally true. When you're emotionally in that state,
Yeah.
you're only going to make yourself sicker. You're only going to make it even harder. Like, you have to heal. You have to begin your healing before you begin working again. There is a point where you transition, like energy. Think about it as like the amount of energy that's being invested. When you are broken, splattered on the ground, all of your energy has to go to simple healing of your organs. Gradually, you have enough healing on board that your body can begin to allocate some of its energy to rebuilding strength. And so you can get up and start doing things. But you have to get up. You can't get up and start immediately returning to the world and your activity level as you knew it. You have to increase gradually, little bit by little bit, as more of your energy transitions from healing to growth. That makes sense, right?
Yeah. And of course, the first thing I think of is that I always have a hard time being able to tell. Like, oh, I have energy for growth. That must mean I'm fine now. But no, it happens little by little.
Little by little, right. Yeah. And if you have a hard time telling, like, my body will not shut up telling me,
yeah,
you don't have enough energy for growth, lie down and heal. Or like, You've grown enough. Get up and fucking do something. Like, my body will not stop telling me. Your
Mhm.
body will not start telling you.
Yeah.
And for anybody who's more like Amelia than like me, always err on the side of healing. Do 50% of what you sort of intuitively are like, I have some energy. I'm going to go grow. I'm going to go strengthen myself. Do less.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Heal more. More healing.
Yeah.
So these are people whose hope is broken, like mine is. My hope never has come back. It's been 20 years. That doesn't mean that I believe it's gone forever. And in that time, I have written 3 New York Times bestselling self-help books. I feel like I figured something out.
Yeah.
And most of that figuring happened in 2005, which is a time when I was raw depressed. Close to the most depressed I've ever been in my life. So what did I do? What did I do? What did I get? Instead of having hope, what I had was meaning. I had my something larger. And we talk about this in chapter 3. So your something larger is a thing that you connect to that fills you with a sense of purpose, that makes you feel like your life matters. So I was sitting in the public library on Main Street in Bloomington, Indiana, reading a book about personal branding, of all fucking things. And I was like having to write sentences about like what I do and what I'm for and what I contribute to an organization. If I'm at a job interview, what do I say that is my contribution? And it was sitting in that library. Libraries really mattered to me. That I was like, oh, I'm here to teach women to live with confidence and joy in their bodies. Okay. Now I have a touchstone. I have a North Star. I have a thing that, like, if I'm feeling lost or exhausted or unsure if I'm making the right choice, I think, does this help me to connect with my something larger? And my something larger is teaching women to live with confidence and joy in their bodies. Is this a job that would help me do it? Is this a project? Is this a gig that helps me do that? Yes. Do I have the energy for it? Yes. Then it's a yes. And if it's a no, then it's a no. One of the most important things I do when I lost hope, I replaced it with connection to something larger than myself that made me know for sure that my life matters, that I'm contributing something valuable. For a lot of people, their work is not their something larger. It's actually very strange that my work is my something larger. I currently, my therapist pointed out that, like, it's very odd and probably part of my autism that my work is part of my something larger.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of people, it's the stuff they do outside of work. It's outside of their paycheck. It's their families. It is
Yeah.
the volunteer organizations.
Yeah.
It is their crafting and their
Yeah.
artistry, which they do not get paid for. It is their hobbies. That's the stuff that makes them feel like they're connected to something larger than themselves. And look, you don't have to do it every day. Do something that feels connected to your something larger, but like do it every month or every couple of weeks and it will help. It's a sustaining energy connecting with your something larger.
In the research about meaning, there are 3 identified characteristics of things that produce meaning. One is things that leave a legacy. So, like, making the world a better place or getting your name on a building or whatever. Another one is a call to service. And the third is participation in loving connections. And obviously,
Yep.
that is the least autistic of the 3, but probably by far the most relatable for the general population.
Yeah. And let us emphasize, as Amelia often does, love can be enough. Love is enough. Love is
Yeah.
purpose enough. And what a lot of people have been saying, and what I think it's really important to reiterate, is that addressing the needs of your immediate community, the people with whom you share a home, the people with whom you share a neighborhood, the people who live in your town, like, if you only contribute positively if the scale at which you contribute extends no further than your city limits, that is still powerful and meaningful and plenty. You don't actually have to go to a national protest. If you do, if you have the energy for that, if that is what helps you to feel a connection with something larger than yourself, go. I have a friend during the first Trump administration. This is before I was diagnosed and before I had long COVID, so I wasn't disabled, as far as I knew. But she was like, yeah, you want to feel like you're really doing something? Go get arrested. And I was like, I am
Not
never
gonna
going to
do that.
do that.
Yeah, no.
Like, that is not for me. That was absolutely for her. She was like, get arrested. Oh, I got arrested and I feel so good. She spent she's got 2 kids, 2 small kids. And she was like, spouse, you're going to take care of the kids. I'm going to go get arrested in DC. And I was like, that's awesome. And if that is the person listening to this is like, yes, go do that. Because not everybody can.
No.
Disabled people are enormously underrepresented at protests and rallies because, like,
Physically can't.
Some of them aren't accessible to people, for example, in wheelchairs.
Mm-hmm.
People who have energy limitations, like us, like, can't. People who are autistic and would find the sensory stimulation enormously overwhelming, and the crowd just, that is not a thing that I could
That's
tolerate.
a no from me, dog.
That's going to be a no from me, dog. And for some people, it's really important.
Yeah. For most people, it is enlivening and,
for a lot of people,
yeah, powerful.
And if that's you, man, go do it. It's so important that people put their bodies on the line. It is so important. And then, like, I want to make sure for the people for whom that is a no, you do not need to feel guilty or bad or ashamed. Like, that people contribute something different. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Your something larger can be no larger than your home. That is why we have done 2 episodes on fucking decluttering.
Yeah.
Make your home a ventral haven. I felt super personally attacked by Sonia Renee Taylor not long ago. Because she made a What's Up Y'all video that was like, I was meditating, I received this download, and wanted to share with you a thing that you and I say all the goddamn fucking time. And I was like, she said, you have to heal your shit.
Yeah.
Sometimes your job is not to go do somebody else's work. Your job is to heal your own shit. So
Heal
you
your
do
shit.
not take your shit out on somebody else.
Hurt people.
Hurt people. Heal. Do like 50% of the growth that if you are not aware of your body telling you how much growth you can do way less growth than you are inclined to do, because healing, do mostly healing.
Yeah.
Do like 95% healing, which means home is a ventral haven.
Yeah.
Spend time in connection with the people who feel safe with you.
And if you don't feel like you have hope, but that's fine, because you don't need it.
Hope
it's very loudly
totally
touted
unnecessary
from the rooftops. Oh, hope is what's gonna sustain it. Like, I mean, yeah, hope's a sustaining energy. Okay,
Yeah.
we got that definition. But like, it is by no means necessary.
You know what? So Kate Mann, not long ago, wrote a newsletter about her relationship with her own okayness, that she basically, like, felt bad for the extent to which her body had returned to its baseline, and she was no longer in a state of constant panic and rage.
Yeah.
And as a moral philosopher, she was imposing morality on what she felt and what she should feel, that there is a moral impetus to stay enraged. And if we learn anything from the polyvagal theory, it's that rage can absolutely be a sustaining energy, but it is a degrading sustaining energy. It literally wears out your organ systems. It wears
Yes.
out your cardiovascular system. It wears out your muscles. It wears out all of your tissues. It wears out
It's
your digestive
sustaining
system.
intentionally, temporarily.
Short term. Yes. So like little spikes of anger periodically, sustaining. Yes.
For a few minutes, literally minutes.
Literally minutes at a time. Anything beyond that, like
That's when it becomes
you
dangerous.
have to heal from the time that your body spent in rage.
Yes.
And you heal best when you have access to ventral, which
Yeah.
is peace and ease and joy, which is why joy is the fundamental emotion of resistance.
Yeah.
Which the Black people of America have known for 400 years.
Yeah.
Which is why Rest is Resistance is transforming revolutionary text.
Yeah.
Joy is the ultimate emotion of resistance because it allows your body to heal from the rage and hopelessness that is deliberately imposed. The reason they flood the zone with shit is so that they can keep you in an activated, enraged, degrading state, physiologically degrading state all the time, so that you do not have the emotional and physical wherewithal to fight.
Yeah.
To show up when you need to. Hope is better than rage because it is ventral, because it's joyful, because it is positive, it is warm, it is connected, it can be easeful.
It is nourishing.
Absolutely.
Unlike rage.
If you have access to hope, which neither of us does, and not everybody does, and if you're broken on the floor in a million pieces and all your organs are bruised, and like every breath is a struggle, #been there, then healing. Healing is the thing you need to do. Heal your shit, connect with your something larger, figure out what your something larger is, and remember your continued existence is an act of defiance.
Yeah. Staying alive until you have an opportunity to make change, to contribute in some way.
Healing to the point that you have energy to grow.
Yeah.
So we're a chunk of time in. We have talked about the problem with hope, which is it's a problem of scale. And it's not a necessary sustaining energy. It's a wonderful sustaining energy if you have access to it. And if you don't, yeah. I am literal living, breathing evidence that it is 100% possible to make contributions to the world and live a good life in the total absence of hope, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I did too.
So I would like to call that a complete episode and then shift into an addendum. People who do not want to hear about an impulse in your brain that says maybe how about not being alive can be done now. You did it. Congratulations. You have contributed to your own well-being. You're going to heal your own shit. You're going to find sustaining energy that is as warm and connected and joyful and easeful as you have access to. You're going to invest as much energy in healing as your body calls for. And you're doing it. You're not doing it wrong just because you don't have hope. Hope is a scam.
Well, hope is... Yeah.
Hope
is a scam.
Great if
like
you have
home
access
ownership
to it.
is a scam. It's great if you have access to it, but if you don't,
exactly. Don't
you're
worry.
gonna be fine. There's a whole bunch of other options that are very, very, very good.
Very good. Yes. And you can stop listening now. If your emotional hope version of I'll never be able to own a home is I am living in my car and it doesn't start, this next section is for you. Because what people fear when they lose access to hope is that they become what people call hopeless, which means that they think there are no other ways through the jams of their lives. They do not feel that they have either agency or pathways. They feel stuck, trapped, isolated. And the trapped and isolated are some of the most dangerous emotional experiences that a human can have.
And we're talking about a difference here between what we were talking about before, because the objective information that we don't have any individual agency to change, like climate change or to resolve the current constitutional crisis, that's information that's true. The feeling that you have no agency over anything at all is not to do with the truth of circumstances. That's a state in your mind.
Yeah.
That is probably not true.
So there's the piece of information. For example, I as an individual can do statistically literally nothing to impact climate change or the constitutional crisis. That is a statement of reality. And then there is a feeling you may or may not have about it. Like, I have no feeling about that. That's just a statement of fact. Like, the sun comes up in the morning. Like, yep.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. There comes a time when your brain may or may not get to a place where, like, yeah, the sun came up this morning and it's going to go down again, and there's nothing I can do to stop it going down again. And your brain, because there's something happening in it that is a disease state, your brain says, then you are worthless and you don't deserve to continue breathing. Or it's too hard to live in a world where the sun goes down every single day. Every day. The day ends, the sun goes down. Is it really worth continuing to breathe when every day the sun goes down? Isn't that too hard? Doesn't it hurt too much?
And this is not information. This is not objective. This is
your brain having feelings.
A disease state of your brain. Yeah, this is your brain being stuck regardless of the context.
Yes. So, the reason I want to talk about it is because when people get hopeless, it's so easy when you feel trapped and isolated, when you're like, it is too difficult. I have no path forward. My brain pushed me off an emotional cliff into a pit of despair.
Yeah.
And I feel this thing that I'm going to label hopelessness, but that is actually my brain deciding that because I can't change these things, I can't change anything.
Yes.
And there are so many things you can do. The most important thing to do. Do you know, like, statistically, like, according to the research, the most important thing to do, if you start getting thoughts in your head that are like, wouldn't being dead be better than this? Do you know what the most important?
Seek help?
Yeah, tell somebody.
Yeah.
Tell somebody. Say it out loud to another human.
Yeah.
It is nothing to be ashamed of. It's not even really something to be afraid of. It is, like, it's scary. Like, it has happened to me multiple times. It has happened to you multiple times. And it's, like, it's scary when it comes.
Oh, yes.
Because you're like, there is a part of my brain that wants me to be dead.
Yeah.
That is scary. Which is why it is so important that you tell somebody that this, like, disease state is happening in your brain.
I'm not afraid of it anymore because it's been around so long and I worked so hard.
Yeah.
I was so afraid of it for so long. And then my therapist was like, do you think it has information for you or something to teach you? And I was like, fuck you, no. It's trying to hurt me.
Yeah.
Why would I listen to it?
Yeah,
it's trying to hurt me.
Yeah.
And there was it was the first appointment I had with her. And when I came back the next week, she's like, I didn't think I'd see you again.
Yeah. That's the great thing
Well,
about being autistic.
I was like, I don't quit things.
Right.
I don't quit things. Once I start a thing, I finish a thing. Even if it's, like, confronting and difficult. And I was like, okay, you're going to tell me my depression has something to teach me. Like, that's clearly bullshit. But then I spent, like, another 4 years listening to depression and just letting it teach me things.
Yeah. I experience my depression as distinct from the part of me that wants me dead.
Oh.
Yeah. Because I can be depressed. I can be very depressed without having a part of me that wants me dead coming
Oh.
to the surface. Oh, they're the same thing for you? Wow, that must be exhausting.
Yeah, the moment I start having, like, thoughts about being in a coffin and stuff, I increase my dose.
You're like, oh, I'm depressed. That's the thing. So this is another, like, your, like, threshold of awareness is
Yeah.
like, you get to the, like, I'm aware I'm depressed when I start thinking about being in a coffin.
No. I no, I increase my dose. I become aware that I become aware that depression is a problem for me right here, right now, with a lot of things. I sleep more
Mhm.
and I'm more tired and I don't want to do things that I used to enjoy, like all the things that they say.
Yeah.
But like I know that this is like it used to be that I would get sort of like freaked out by how much I thought about death. But now I'm like, "Oh, that's information for me that I need to this is now not a thoughts issue. This is a broken brain issue. This is a medication
Yeah. Broken brain.
intervention time." Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what the coffin imagery is for me. It's not, "Oh, now I'm depressed." It's and now we seek medical intervention.
Yeah. Yeah. You seek medical intervention. You tell the people who can help you. The last time it happened for me, like, I told Rich, and we had to, like, change a whole lot of plans, like,
Yeah.
immediately. And the reason I told him, because I was looking at what we had planned, and I was like, that is not available to me
Mhm.
because there's a part of my brain that wants me to be dead, and I cannot do those things while I have that. So, can I talk about that part of me?
Yeah.
Because I used internal family systems to change my relationship with the part of me that wants me dead. Because it's not my whole brain,
Yeah.
which is why, like, there's a part of me that's afraid of the part that wants me dead. Because it's like, oh no, there's something that's no bueno. So when I, you can tell we've had like so much therapy and I've done so much work because we're
The
like,
part of me that wants me dead is no bueno.
no bueno. But so what you do in internal family systems is you unblend from the part, which means you create some observational distance between you and the thought or the emotion, or it's usually both for me. And you personify it. And you may or may not have like a visual representation of the part, but you have a sense that you can like witness it or listen to it or experience it without it being you. Like, I don't want me dead. This part of me wants me dead. And like your therapist said, it probably has something it wants to communicate to me. It is in some way trying to protect me. Because these parts of ourselves, these difficult parts of ourselves, were created by our brains to protect us from something. And the part of me that like creeps like a gremlin into my brain is like, it would be better than this. Not being alive. You know, it'd be better. It is my zombie leprechaun.
Mhm.
It is a zombie leprechaun, which looks I literally, like, I went to Etsy and I searched for zombie leprechaun and I found a little statue of a zombie leprechaun and I bought it. And it lives in my house as this like external representation of the part of me. And a wonderful thing that I learned when I could separate myself from the part of me that wants me dead. And hey, if you are new to IFS, read multiple books about it. No Bad Parts by Richard Schwartz is sort of like the text-ish type thing. And the reason it's called No Bad Parts is because even the most difficult part, and I would describe this as one of my most difficult parts, they're all there because they're trying to help, even if they're doing it in a way that's kind of unhelpful. A really important thing I learned from my zombie leprechaun is that even though it was like, I am the part of you that wants you to be dead. I'm encouraging you to be dead. What I learned is it didn't want to kill me. There is no part of me. I mean, there are multiple parts of me that can think about ways, but there is no part of me that wants to do those things, which was very empowering. That like he could want the outcome, but not want to be the one who did it. That was very helpful for me.
Yeah.
So step number 1, ask for help.
Yeah.
So when I notice that the zombie leprechaun is doing a good job of convincing me that like I might want to be dead, my brain will then start exploring ideas for how to make that happen, and it's valuable to know that the zombie leprechaun himself is not the one who's doing that, and so I can just like stop that part.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a part of you that's also thinking about like that's like really fascinated at researching ways, like that's a part you need to also develop a listening relationship with, because like what is it that your brain, that part of you, gets out of thinking about ways? So step number 1, ask for help. Insert they came to help because of sadness here. You should have a list of people, 3 at minimum, one of whom should be a professional.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it embarrassing sometimes? Yeah, my most recent experience was really embarrassing. To be like, I have all of this privilege, I have all of this success, and my brain is still doing this thing to me. Step number 1, ask for help.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is that this is the difference between like burnout and depression.
Yeah.
Like, is that burnout is because of your circumstances. You change your circumstances, you'll change how you feel. Mental illness doesn't matter your circumstances.
Because it's happening in your brain, not in your
it's happening in your brain.
circumstances.
So it doesn't, yeah.
So after you ask for help and access help, do whatever it takes to heal. And in the early phases of all healing, we talked about like if you have hit the ground and broken all your bones and bruised most of your organs, if taking a breath hurts because like your ribs are broken, it's okay to numb intolerable pain. When people are in the hospital in intolerable pain, what does the hospital do? Hopefully, unless you're a black woman, they give you painkillers. They numb the pain. Right?
Yeah, as long as they believe that you're actually
as they believe that you're in pain, and we don't need to get into a conversation right now about the ways that there is injustice in pain management in hospitals and in all medical care. Numbing the pain is acceptable. Pain is not a measure of your valor. It is not a measure of your worth as a human being. Pain can actually keep you so in an activated, stressed, fearful, sympathetic state that it becomes more difficult to heal. Numb intolerable pain in whatever way helps, whatever rest, whatever television, whatever delicious fucking food, whatever. Anything that like lowers the pain to a tolerable level. Great.
But Emily, illicit drugs?
Yes. The way Kate Bornstein puts it is, you have permission to do whatever it takes to make your life worth living. Just don't be mean. You can do whatever it takes to make your life worth living. Just don't be mean. If that's illicit drugs, whatever it takes to get through.
But let's talk about, harm reduction and maladaptive versus adaptive coping. And okay, yeah.
That's what we're doing. Yeah, what we're doing here is harm reduction. Because the ultimate
Don't
harm
die.
we're preventing is keeping you alive. We're keeping you alive instead of not alive.
Yeah.
You do whatever it takes to make your life tolerable.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, like, we've both been through this so many times. And it always ends. It always feels like it's never going to end. And it always does.
Feels like it's never gonna change,
and
because that's the primary symptom is stuckness.
Yeah So step 1, ask for help. Step 2, numb the pain. I was going to say don't be a hero, but it's fucking heroic to numb the pain, to be like, I have this Costco size bag of gluten-free ramen, and I'm going to eat as many of these as it takes for me to fall asleep. Do you, friend? Whatever it takes. And when it is possible, do things that help you to release the pain. Because in addition to numbing the pain, we also need to clean the wound. Compassion. Rae McDaniel, who's a sex and gender therapist in the Chicagoland area, they run a whole practice for folks. And the way they describe it is that compassion is antiseptic that cleans emotional wounds. It can sting. Part of why you ask for help is so that you can receive compassion from someone who isn't you, and it may sting. It may feel like, is this the right choice? Antiseptic cleans the wounds, the emotional wounds, so that you can heal.
Yeah.
So having stuff that releases the junk, like the garbage that gets stuck inside us, is necessary. There's going to be some media that you consume that numbs the pain. There's going to be some media you consume that releases the pain.
Yeah.
Like you have some music you have like books you listen to that like numb the pain. And
Yeah.
then probably for you, I would say listening to music
Yeah.
releases the pain.
Feelings. Yeah.
Feelings, yeah.
Yeah.
That's often the case for me. Sometimes there's media or books that release the pain. A lot of them are numbing. And there are specific go-tos of like, if I need to cry,
Yeah.
what's a thing you listen to that's like, this is to help me cry?
The second movement of the Brahms Requiem.
Well, yeah. Yeah. That's a little too fancy for me.
Yeah.
But what's it called? Chichester Psalms.
Yeah.
Like, totally. Nothing like a boy soprano.
Yeah.
Holy shit. A boy soprano will just like get me every fucking time, which is why I include it in one of my romance novels at the end. Someone in a Tree from Pacific Overtures. There's just thinking about the lyrics.
Yeah.
Without someone in a tree, nothing happened here. It's the pebble, not the stream. Not the building, but the beam. So find a thing that helps be an outlet. I had a student a long time ago who was like, so like if I have a TV show that lets me like feel better, feel calm, that's healing, right? And I was like,
No.
does it help you feel calm or does it help you cry? And she was like, helps me feel calm. And I was like, that's numbing and that's important. And you know how there are some things that like make you cry? And she was like, yes. Those might be things that help to release the pain. Unlike physical pain, like there's healthy pain that comes with growth, like stretching. A lot of yoga instructors use language like, that's a lot of sensation. That's a really intense sensation. Pigeon pose, there's a lot of intense sensation in your hips in this posture. They'll say, instead of framing it as pain, they're like, this is a really intense sensation. And so if you have media that produces a lot of intense sensation, that isn't pain, but is like, it's cleansing is good. Those are important things to do. Okay, so far we've got 1, ask for help, most important thing. Single most important thing, ask for help. At least 3 people should be on your list. One of them should be a professional. 2, numb the intolerable pain. Plus, do things that help to release the pain, cleansing, good, antiseptic, compassion.
Participating in media that help you feel your feelings.
Yes. In a way that doesn't activate a whole bunch of like, this is intolerable.
Right.
I would rather be not alive than experiencing this. If you can unblend from the part, Do you have like a personification? Do you have an unblending? Do you have cues like thoughts?
Yeah. No, yeah, I have cues like thoughts of like, oh, this is depression. That's what's happening to me. I do have a sense that it's not me. I am not depressed. I have depression.
Yeah,
I definitely have unblended it to that degree, but
that's valuable.
yeah.
Yeah, and unblending, and like that's a different, like I have a different relationship with different diagnoses. So I have depression, but I am autistic, right?
Yeah.
So if you can separate yourself in some way from the experience that you're having, creating observational distance so that you can know that it is happening without being your whole identity is what's happening. And if you get to a point where you are well enough, it can be useful to inquire into like what are the dynamics of life that activate this part of me, which is not active all the time. So what were the circumstances that convened to make this happen? The last time for me it was a combination of like a surgical strike of a work conflict that happened to like target my greatest vulnerabilities,
Mm-hmm.
plus a famous person who brought joy to my life died by suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, youch. And the insight
Yeah.
was valuable. Insight is neither necessary nor like it's not enough, and it also you can get through this whole thing without ever having insight. You just get
Yeah.
through it. Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
fine. Expose yourself finally to stories of hope.
Yeah.
Amelia and I are both stories of hope. Like I hope you experienced them. And when I say hope, like this is an episode of hope. My happily ever after is that I have this hilarious personification of the part of me that wants me dead. It's a zombie leprechaun. It's funny. It's funny.
Yeah.
Right? And I will probably always I accept that this is like a thing that lives in my brain, and occasionally it sticks its head out when circumstances convene to like bring out this part of me. But I go long periods of life without it. And then every now and then it goes ah!
Right.
And that's like that's a good outcome.
Yeah. 100%.
You have a similar kind of outcome, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I chug along and I take the minimum amount of medication I can to, preserve my liver function and not be depressed. And then when I start thinking about myself in a coffin, I up my meds.
Yeah. That is a story of hope.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I couldn't always do it. There was one time when I was laid out on the couch.
Yeah.
Not actively crying, just like
Oh no,
tears.
because when it's at its worst, you can cry.
You can't, no, just like on the couch, my eyes leaking, but not crying. Like just,
I'm very familiar.
yeah.
I don't
Like-
have the energy to cry, but I also don't have the energy to like stop myself from crying.
Yeah.
So it's just like a thing happening to my face.
Yeah. And my poor, at the time, boyfriend, now husband, like, what can I do?
Yeah.
And like the thing that had to be done was I needed to find a medical professional who would put me back on my meds. And he did that. He made phone calls and he found I didn't have any insurance, and he found a practitioner where I could go without insurance and get a prescription.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I needed, is someone just to do that. And he was looking at me on the couch like,
yeah.
Clearly not myself, to say the least. Like, he'd known me then for 5 years already. So he knew, like, this is not how Amelia acts. This is not Amelia's personality. This is not normal.
Something is wrong.
Something is wrong. And I was like, I don't know. I just can't. But I bet I should get back on my medication. But I've called some psychiatrists and I don't have insurance, so they won't see me.
And I asked my primary care physician, and he said he won't prescribe psych meds.
Wow, you tried.
I tried.
Talk about feeling helpless and trapped. Like, you tried things and just, like, got doors closed in your face.
When my primary care provider said he doesn't prescribe psych meds, I was like, just give me a month so I have enough
Yeah.
energy to find a real psychiatrist. I don't prescribe psych meds. I thought, that's it. This is not going to happen. I'm going to die like this.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, he doesn't want to save my life. This is a doctor who doesn't care if I live or die.
Did you say that?
No, I had told him that I was thinking about suicide, because I 100% was. And he said, I don't prescribe psych meds.
That is irresponsible.
Yeah.
That's enraging.
I mean, it was 20 years ago now. And it still feels so intense.
Oh, yeah. You ask for help and the person is just like, you're like, I'm afraid I'm not going to live through the next month.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm not going to prescribe a medication that would help you live through the next month.
Yeah.
My equivalent, when I also lost my insurance and therefore lost my medication, I was, if you're ready for me to talk about my story.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, I was living with our mom. Just living with. I was in the attic, and I spent all my time in the attic. And I was young enough that I was not yet aware of the patterns that happened, because it was only like the second time I'd been that depressed. Maybe third. No, it was the third. And two of them had happened while I was living in that attic. And I didn't realize how bad it was. And I certainly didn't realize that anyone could tell that there was anything wrong with me. I was super sure that I seemed fine because I was masking hard. And then one day, Mom came up to the attic and handed me a piece of paper and started crying and said, "This is a prescription for your medication." She had gotten a nurse practitioner in her choir. Mom was a church musician, and there was a nurse practitioner in her choir who could... It's illegal for a medical provider to write a prescription for someone they have not seen and are not the provider for. And my mom asked this NP to break the law to write this prescription because she knew that it would save my life. And she said, "We will pay for this month. Take it so that you are well enough to get on Medicaid and can have a provider and a prescription." And I did. I went to the drugstore and I got that filled and I got on it, and I had enough energy to recognize how depressed I had been and how close to the edge I had been. And got on Medicaid. I went to the Medicaid office and I went and got a Medicaid psychiatrist and got the lowest quality psychiatric treatment I've ever gotten in my life. But oh boy, was it enough to have a prescription for the medication that saved my life.
Yeah, that's what I ended up doing too, is going to like a state sponsored
Yeah.
Medicaid type situation.
Yeah.
Saved my life.
Yep. Saved my
Government
life.
medical care saved my life.
Yep. State provided medical care saved my life. So when I see the cuts potentially being made to Medicaid, like
Yeah.
we would not be here if it weren't for medication, and for and in my case, for someone around me noticing that I was worse than I knew I was.
Yeah.
And somebody else being like, hearing Mom being worried that her daughter was going to die and being willing to write a prescription that your fucking medical provider wasn't willing to write. And these were happening around the same time.
Yeah, it was 2005.
Yep, right around the same time. So,
Might have been 2006 for me.
it was January of 2007 for me.
It was definitely 2006 for me.
Yeah, right around the same time. Right around the same time.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
there was a genetic clock in our brains that was like, you might be done. You might be
I
done.
definitely think that's part of it.
Since it happened for both of us at like very similar times, and our life circumstances were totally different from each other's.
Completely different.
Completely different.
Yeah.
So, like, part of me feels like there was a genetic clock in our brain that was like,
I think so too.
that might be enough.
That might be it. Yeah. Yeah,
And
you've lived long enough to reproduce. You didn't do it. Time's up.
And our medication got us through that, and here we are.
Yeah. And we are for sure not the only ones.
Yeah. So the first half of this episode was hope for people who are like trying to find a sustaining energy, and the second half of the episode was for people who were like, does hopelessness mean I am trapped and alone forever? And the answer is 100% not.
No. Yeah.
100% not. And there are ways through, and definitely talk to a professional. And we have just both shared stories about we know how hard it is to find a helping professional. But as Maria Bamford says, some of that help is really shitty. You go get that shitty help. Go get that shitty help. Go get that shitty help.
Go get that shitty help.
Shitty help is better than no help.
Yeah. I literally refer to my psychiatric providers as drug dealers.
Yeah, for years.
Yeah. Pretty much all they do is they write my prescriptions. I see a therapist who actually helps, and I see a psychiatrist who just writes my scripts.
Yeah, I only now, and so I have an actual psychiatrist now who knows more than I do, which is like, that's my threshold. Somebody who I don't just like tell them what I need and they give it to me.
Yeah.
And he does not accept insurance.
Yeah.
So it is only because I can afford to pay cash that I have psychiatric care now that is more than just, please write me this prescription to supplement the therapy that actually is helping me.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's rough. This is times.
Well, the good news is that like people have been studying depression, and to be sure, once you feel like maybe death is the appropriate alternative, like that is a sign of disease, that is illness.
Yeah.
That is not a healthy response to anything. That's not a realistic way of perceiving the world.
And it's not
that is mental
actually
illness.
about your life circumstances. It is your brain.
Not at all.
Sometimes, as a result of life circumstances, your brain breaks.
Yeah.
But it is the broken brain that is like, that's a disease that it can be treated.
Yeah. So once you're feeling like that, it's a disease that can be treated, and it's very well researched. There are therapies that are very well established. Once you ask for help is available and real, and,
And that doesn't mean the first time you ask, you're going to find somebody good.
Yeah. But accept that shitty help.
Yeah. Accept that shitty help. Shitty help is better than no help. There's so many books. There's so many podcasts now that you can listen to. We should probably at some point make a how to help somebody who's if you're a person who's like, I know somebody who's in this place and I've been waiting for you to tell me how to help somebody who's in this place and I cannot get a prescription written for them, the number one thing to know is that you can ask, hey, have you been thinking about hurting yourself? Have you been thinking about being dead? And be open to the conversation. And know that the conversation, your compassion and willingness to see this thing that they may feel afraid of, they may feel ashamed of, like that is an incredibly valuable thing. It's not the only thing that a person needs in that state, but it is really important that there be somebody else in their life who knows and they can talk to about it. And you can get their insurance booklet and start looking for providers who are accepting patients. Yeah. Because that process of finding a provider when you're depressed is onerous.
It's almost unachievable.
It's a joke.
Yeah. And if anybody's like, well, I'm not sure I want to be on medication, I'll tell you what my first psychiatrist said was, you'd rather drink and cry?
Woo! Personally attacked. And was there
Well,
a part
'cause
of your brain that was like, yeah,
I mean, yeah, that's what I've been doing.
seems to be working out so far.
Seems all right. I've been drinking and crying. It's got me this far.
I haven't actually like gone to school drunk yet, so
No, I had actually been to school drunk at that point. I mean, not drunk, but like a couple of
Not
shots.
sober.
Like, not sober.
That's bad.
Yeah, 100%. It was bad. It was bad.
Yeah, when I first got prescribed anxiety medication, I was like, I just really want to like not use it, and he's like, so you're drinking instead of using prescribed medication? And I was like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
that's enough
Yeah.
of that, sir.
Yeah. You may already be self-medicating, and that is not.
We should have
in
an
any way
alcohol
better.
episode. I know a lot about alcohol because I was
Oh,
a
yeah.
college health educator
Yeah.
for a long time.
And just directly descended from an alcoholic.
Right. Yes. I know many, many things. Okay. So, in summary, your emotional pain is not inherently dangerous, and it will always, always end. When you feel like it's a lot, first step is to tell someone. Second step is to manage the pain as you would any physical injury. Cleanse the wound with compassion, as you would cleanse any physical wound with antiseptics. And sometimes, if you have the wherewithal, look for insight to help you understand why the little fucker got activated again. And know for sure, this is both of us having been through it multiple times. We know lots of people who have been through it multiple times.
Yeah.
We also both know people who didn't make it.
Yeah.
And what I would want them to know is that, yeah, it's very fucking hard. It is so uncomfortable. It's so hard. I get it. It always ends. And it's never true that you are isolated. It is never true that you are trapped. You can connect and you can get free. Step one is telling someone. 3 someones, one of whom has to be a professional. We should definitely include in the show notes all the information about the suicide hotline, specific information for trans and non-binary folks. So you'll find, like, if you need to talk to somebody right away, you'll find that in the show notes. And I hope you believe us. And I hope that if you know someone who's struggling in this way, that this has offered some insight into what their experience is and what you can do to be there for them. And I hope that most people stopped listening at the end of the first half.
Yeah.
Because most people don't need this.
Well,
This is for the...
this is a non-standard degree of
Not everybody...
explication.
Yeah, not everybody has this intensity of experience, but like for the people who need it, I feel like we're people who can talk about it, and therefore we should talk about it.
Yeah.
And I think we have not painted like a rosy picture of like, you can do it!
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can, but...
And it's going to be so hard.
It's not going to be that hard.
But it's also going to be kind of funny. It's going to be kind of funny. Like, fluids are just going to leak out of your face while you do nothing. You're just, like, lying there and, like, fluids leaking out of your face. And a person who loves you is going to be like,
What?
What?
Yeah.
What? Did you know that Rich hates The Lord of the Rings because the very first winter we were together. So I have seasonal affective situation that makes winters especially hard. So that first one, my comfort watch was Lord of the Rings. And I would just like numb out to like a dozen hours of fucking hobbits and elves and dwarves and shit.
Really?
Yeah. And Rich now hates The Lord of the Rings because he associates it. Like, we had only been together for like 6 months.
Yeah.
So I was new to him. He didn't have 5 years of like, who is Emily actually?
Yeah.
So he's like watching me like lie there with fluids leaking out of my face, just like staring at a screen where the Lord of the Rings was happening.
Yeah.
And when I got done with Lord of the Rings, I watched all the bonus features.
Yeah.
He's like, what is this?
Poor guy.
I will take the ring to Mordor, though I do not know the way. Yeah.
Wow.
Me too.
Wow.
So, yeah. Oh boy. So I decided we would talk about the problems with hope, and that is what we did. And we can stop doing this now. And next time we'll talk about autism. We'll start to talk about autism.
Okay. I want to say a thing that you don't have to include if you don't want to, Rich, but I discovered that decluttering is compassion.
Ooh.
It's forgiveness for mistakes.
Is that why it's so hard for so many people?
I think maybe. Because you have to turn toward your bad
Past
decisions.
mistakes with kindness and compassion. And some of those mistakes
Yeah.
are money mistakes.
Almost all of them are money mistakes.
And they're also like body feelings.
body feelings. Yeah.
Oh.
I was like, oh, this is forgiveness for this mistake I made.
So thank you for your service is
I'm forgiven.
I forgive myself for
thinking that I was this person who would wear this article of clothing or whatever.
Yeah. I grieve the
eat
fact
this
that it
food.
turns out I never was the person who was going to wear this.
Yeah.
Or I am no longer the person who was going to wear this or eat
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Whew. I think that's important. I know. We should do just like alternate decluttering episodes with everything else.
Yeah.
Because it turns out like that's just going to be like the key to 2025 is all the stuff, every item in your home. Every item in your home. Including, in my case, the garden statue of a zombie leprechaun.
Is it a garden? Oh, is that what the garden statue is?
Yes.
Oh.
It's in the we have a clear glass case, like a display case.
Oh, I'm familiar.
One of the things in there is a garden statuette of a zombie leprechaun that I bought on Etsy.
Nice.
Sparks joy.
Because it feels your feelings with you.
Yeah, because it reminds me that part of myself is just a part of myself.
Yeah.
And it's very funny. It's
It is.
funny. Come on. And that's all for this week. Feminist Survival Project Zombie Apocalypse Edition. Turns out one of the zombies is a leprechaun that wants me dead.
Hi diddly dee.
It's not alive, you'll be.
Yeah.
We can make those jokes. We are mostly Irish. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back next week with something equally uplifting. No, it'll be more fun, hopefully. But as Maria Bamford says, some of that help is really shitty. You go get that shitty help. Go get that shitty help.